and Bloom News Brief. More info at bullandbloom.com. Earlier today, former Judas Priest guitarist KK Downing addressed the similarities between his predicament and Mick Mars' conflict with Motley Crue. Downing quit Judas Priest in 2011 just as the band was about to embark on what was intended to be their final tour. For more info on Mick's conflict with Motley Crue, click the links in the description. In an audio message provided to blabbermouth.net, KK said, "I do sympathize with Mick because I'm going through exactly the same thing, and it's pretty unsavory to say the least. After spending a lifetime building the band's name, reputation, popularity, and value, in particular brand name, it should be all right for people to retire, especially through illness. In my case, we were gearing up in 2010 to do a final world tour, the Epitaph Tour, which was meant to be the end of the band. And because I was having pressure put on me to write for an EP to support that tour, which I absolutely was not going to be any part of, I certainly didn't want to finish my career with an EP. So I threw the towel in and sent a retirement letter in. There was a whole set of circumstances for me not doing the final tour, and one of the main considerations was we were getting to be concerned about Rob Halford, and we thought that he was gearing up to leave the band again. Because in 2010, when all of this was going on, the planning of the farewell tour and finishing the band, the justification was that Rob pretty much within 12 months in 2010 had released 2 studio albums with his own band and had done a world tour, including Ozfest. And we were very much thinking that Rob, with his own manager, would go their separate ways again. And that was another serious consideration. I really wanted to mention that because it really wasn't the band I was leaving. It was just I decided not to do the farewell final tour of the band, because that's what was all agreed and that's what was intended to happen. Of course, I didn't know that the band would continue at that time right up until today. Otherwise, things and decisions may have well been different. But as I said, I sympathize with Mick because the circumstances between the two of us seem pretty much identical. KK further claimed that Halford, Glenn Tipton, Ian Hill, and the entity Judas Priest Music Limited, which manages the assets of the band, ganged together and kicked him off as a director. Downing said, "As a 25% shareholder in the company, their stance is that my shares don't have value, which is completely ridiculous. I think Mick actually talked about that particular thing as well as it relates to Motley Crue, and it seems to be what the rest of the guys in his band are trying to do also. Even the Judas Priest 50-year anniversary book, for example. That's seriously well illustrated with so many pictures of my life's history, but I don't get any revenue from that whatsoever, or from any merchandise, and I've been told that the company has no value." Downing continued by saying that he wanted to share his story in order to warn other musicians who might someday encounter a similar circumstance. "I think to safeguard any other people that may be coming around to being in this position that may well be acquaintances of mine or even good friends of mine. I wouldn't like them to be in this position," he said. "So safeguards need to be put in place to avoid even the thought of litigation. But as for me and Mick, it seems that's our only route." During a Full and Bloom interview with Downing, the guitarist talked about leaving Judas Priest and revealed who he thought was preventing him from rejoining the band.
Rob's always been quiet. I mean, Rob left the band for 14 years and I was the one that brought him back in. I was the one that was instrumental. I was the one that reached out to him. But at the moment, everything's outside of his control, Ian's and Scott's. That's what I think.
Oh, because Glenn's kind of running that even in the background?
If Glenn isn't who he is, Rob's never been a decision maker or Ian really in the band ever. It was always me and Glenn, really. But, well, it was to start with. Then the decision making was more Glenn and James, the truth, you know. Given a choice, Rob, Ian and Scott, I believe, would have certainly entertained the idea of having me step back in the band if there wasn't something preventing them to do so. I've always had a very, very good relationship with Rob, Ian and Scott, always. So a lot of things went on in the band that us collectively were not happy with. For a long time, collectively, we were not happy. We were joined. We were as one for some years towards the end. And so there must be some power that I don't know about that's not doing things the way they should be done. Glenn decided to step down, and the minute he did, he passed the guitar to Andy, who was there, and he said, "You got the job." So there was never an option for me.
And so you disagreed kind of with I know the management kind of teamed up. She had teamed up with Glenn, you felt. But are they still being managed by the same person?
Yeah.
And even though you stepped down and you would like to be in the band?
When Glenn stepped down, it would have been an option for me to step back in because I was ready to do it, really, is what I think.
I think it would look cool, too, with, they got Richie. It'd be like two of you on the stage.
Well, yeah, we would have made a good guitar duo. Oh, there's no doubt about it. It didn't make any sense. I mean, Richie covers Glenn's parts now anyway. He even plays Painkiller, Richie does, and does a great job of it. It would have made sense for me to step back in and take my role as someone that has a 40-year legacy of standing in that spot. It didn't make any... If there was an option, if there was a remote option that could have been done, then those guys, for the sake of the fans, should really have asked the question, is it an option? But they didn't. So sad that it came to that. It seems to make eminent sense to get the fans to accept a brand new guy or a guy that was there, the originator from day one, that's written all of those songs and played all of those solos. It doesn't make any sense to bring someone in that's essentially more of a great producer than anything else.